Welcome to Coffee with Joy. I'm your favorite host, Joy, with Coffee with Joy Talk Show and Podcast. I am so elated and so excited to have my guest, Tamara, Nailed It Motherhood. If I said that correct, right, Tamara? Yes, I said that correct. So I am so excited. Of course, I'm not a mother, but just to hear someone who's taking the leap and just talking about mothers, talking about their adventures, talking about their stories, talking about how they're being activists and so forth. I am so excited to have her on this podcast. As we know, we just left motherhood. We just left Mother's is 365. So even though Mother's Day was in May, here, Mother's Day is 365. So I'm so excited to hear how her journey got started and how she's bringing mothers on and just elevating their stories. So please make sure that you like, subscribe, and follow Coffee with Joy. And if you have any questions or comments, please put them below. I know Tamara will love to hear them. And if you love to reach out to her podcast, her tag is on the bottom so that you all will be able to see. And please do reach out. So after these messages, we're going to talk to my guest, Tamara, talking about motherhood. Advertise your business on our podcast. Connect with us, the Coffee with Joy Talk Show podcast, and let's grow together. Email us and welcome back to Coffee with Joy. So excited to have you all. So let's bring my guest, Tamara, in. Yes. Hey, Tamara, how are you?
Hey, Joy. I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing good. Like we stated, trying to bring out the colors. Hope someone is smiling, especially a mother out there who's just like so excited, so elated to hear this conversation. So before we begin, can you tell people a little bit about yourself? And then we're going to jump right into our today's conversation.
Sure. My name is Tamara Eldridge. As I say on my podcast, I'm the host with the most. And I say that because I have always been very into theater, very into being creative and being a thespian. And I'm still very much into that. So I have a 5-year-old daughter. It feels like I have 3 kids sometimes, but she is my joy. She's also my stress, but she's my hope and all of the above. So that's who I am. I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I'm a podcast host, so hey, y'all.
Yes, Tamara. So how did you get started with Nailed It Motherhood? What did this adventure led this to be in your podcast and your love?
So a few years back, I was talking to multiple parents, and their stories were really, really deep stories. And they had gone through like some pretty intense traumas, and they opened up and they shared these things with me. And once I was done talking to them, I felt like, you need to share your story. And that happened back to back to back. There were 3 particular women that I'm thinking about in particular. And because of that, I was like, I think that I need to create something, because I feel like I'm always that person who people come to and pour out their hearts, but they also always have a lesson at the end of their pouring. So I felt like I needed this because I was a new mom at that time, and I had so many questions that needed to be answered, so many and so many, how do I do this? Because my child is this, and I have this kind of temperament. So what do I do? So that's why I created Nailed It Motherhood Podcast. It was really to pay homage to those women and my own mother, who is no longer here, giving her honor to how she raised the 4 girls.
Wow. And like when you say nail it, like what emphasis is on the nail it? Because, when many people look at, they know motherhood, right? But when we talk about nail it, it's like, I almost could come up with my own summary. But of course, I don't want to take away the craft or the innovation that you came behind that. How did nail it became your tag?
Yes. So I did not have a title for the longest. And then I decided I was going to start this podcast, and I still didn't quite have the name. I was playing with some, I can't even remember what it was that I was playing with. But then I recall myself watching the Nailed It baking show on Netflix, and I loved that show. I loved the host. I loved everything about it. I loved the concept of these people really want to bake. These people really want to have this presentation, and they want to grow their skill set in baking and present this big old fantastic piece that people could look at and be like, wow. So they have this opportunity to take these skills that they don't really excel in, and they utilize them, and they bake this stuff, and then they drop this big old box and they say, nailed it. And that's how I felt motherhood was for me, because my daughter has such a huge personality. She's strong-willed. She has always had a mind of her own, and it's like Whenever I had a baby, I said, please don't let me have a girl. It was because I didn't want to raise myself. So that's what parenting is for me. I'm kind of raising myself, and I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I
Yeah.
have no idea what I'm doing. But she's still living. She's clothed. She has lots of toys that she can play with. She's respectful. She's polite when she needs to be.
Mhm.
Nailed it. That's how I felt that was for me. So it's Nailed It Motherhood Podcast because I feel like no matter the journey, we're still doing what we're doing and we're surviving. And we have to acknowledge the fact that we are still standing as parents and we're nailing it. So that's where the title came from.
And I totally agree because I had somewhat along the way of that summary, right? Because every day you're nailing it, right? You're thriving, you're putting it, even though sometimes I know life could throw nuggets as being a mother.
Mm-hmm.
It could throw darts like, oh, I'm not doing well. I'm not doing well. But you are. You made it. You're thriving in it,
Yeah.
right? And because I like to say thrive. I want to go beyond surviving, right? Because you're thriving because you got the greatest gift in the world. You have a story. This story is going to continue to develop. It's going to be the next book, not chapter, but the next book. So having this child or children is something that's a joy because so many women want to be a mother, right?
Mhm.
They long to be a mother, and just to be able to have that to carry life is such a joy. Now, being in this podcast arena, what has been like your ups and downs of starting this journey as you becoming the host of Nail It Motherhood and bringing on guests? What has been like your journey along the way, like your, I guess, pros and cons, your greatest, your challenges, however synonym or antonym you want to use towards that?
Yeah. I'll start with a positive.
Mhm.
So one of the biggest pros of this journey has been that it is so much more than I thought it was going to be.
Hmm.
I started it just thinking we were just going to talk, we were going to key real quick, and we were going to shut it down and be out. But when I started actually talking to the mothers, the very first guest that I had, her story was so deep, and I tried to like wean it to the positive, and not that her story was negative. She's an overcomer in her journey, but I tried to make it more about the one issue that she said she was going to talk about, and I had to bring her back because I didn't do her story justice. So she was the first guest on season 1 and she was the first guest on season 2. So it grew into so much more than I thought it was, and it truly, I can see this being a real community. So that is absolutely a pro. Some cons, I do everything, literally everything from start to finish, from looking at the applications from the guests, from scheduling people onto the show. I do the podcast host, obviously. I write the scripts before we go, which is just a template of how the show is going to be structured so that they have it in advance. And then after we're done recording, I edit, I mark it. It is time consuming. And as a mother of a young child who is now at that age where she wants to be involved, she's in dance, she wants to be in gymnastics. I'm teaching her how to play volleyball. I'm like, I don't know if there are enough hours in a day to make this happen, but this is child number 2 for me
Mhm.
because I truly believe in what it is about to be. So like it's that's a con. Like there's not enough time. I'm
Yeah.
not making any money from this
Yeah.
whatsoever, but I'm pushing out money for this. But I believe in it. So, you know, those are the ups and downs right now. The
Right.
guests are amazing. That I'm going to end with that. The guests are amazing. That is absolutely a pro. I am in awe every time I have a new guest on my show.
Mm. And that's a testament, right? Because being a mother, we know that it's just the job just does not stop there when we leave one place because we have aspirations too, right? We have
Mm-hmm.
dreams that we want to conquer. It's a blessing for them to come in this chapter, but at the same time, we would like to finish out what our purpose is in life.
Yes.
And just to hear that, you're still pressing through, still going through. God is giving you that vision to produce. Have you ever had her on the show to really, probably have that type of conversation or just to share? Because, society, I don't know the statistics, but I do know it's high that people love to, because children just authentic by themselves. They
Mm-hmm.
are just who they are, especially the younger they are, the authentic themselves. And when people, have like the pictures, the videos, why does it have so many views up in the caves? And you're like, it's just showing their legs. because people love the squishy and they're not even saying anything. So have you ever had her on the show, and what has been like the most memorable moment of her being on the show with you?
So Joy, I need you to stay out my business because she has not officially been on the show.
Okay.
He is represented on the show in the form of a Tavi Tale segment, which is my opportunity before my guests share their personal parenting journey, to tell who my daughter is. The reason that I'm a mom is because of Tavia. So that's the segment that she's in, and I get to share all of the goofy stories and the moments where she makes me crack up or makes me go, "Where did you learn that?" or makes me just stress. That's the segment where she's represented. However, I have not told anybody this, maybe one or two people, but I do plan on doing an episode with just me and her. And she's basically my manager now. And she's like, "When are we going to record?" I'm like, 5-year-old, sit down and go color.
Yeah.
We're going to record, but I should have never said anything to her because she's like, where's my shine, Mom? Where's my shine? So
and I know that's going to be remarkable. Yeah, that's going to be exciting just to hear her point of view, and just for her just to share like whatever items that you all discover, you know, and his topics are endless. Oh my goodness, topics are endless. Like you could just probably run it with her for the rest of your segment. And I promise you, because that conversation is like worth having, because that is a great skill, you know, for parents to be able to be with their kids, to orientate, you know, just the oral conversation, you know, and be able to be a critical thinker, you know, to be able to think outside the box, you know, to have wait time. And when she's able to be expressive, and she may be expressive, but that's like pushing her right in this segment, because now who to say, I don't know, within another year, I don't know, whenever God's timing, she may have her own podcast, you know, because like I tell my students, believe me, the age thing is gone. You could be working before you even conceive. Keep that in mind. You know, parents have their kids literally, they're in the womb and they're already bringing home X amount of dollars, you know, working with brands, working with affiliate brands. If the parents are truly content creators, right? They're already bringing in things. So, you know, your parents would say, when you turn 18, you need to go get a job. But when you're 16, no, you could work now and get that money now. Like, it's just so remarkable how God could just, you know, take what you have thinking that's the end all and be all. And like, no, it's, you think of 100, I got 101. And it's always pulling forward. So I know that conversation is going to be remarkable. Love the cup. Yes. Yes. She's drinking that coffee, that tea. Yes. I'm a mom. Yes. There you go. See, nail it. Please make sure you get your merch. Please make sure you get your merch. So now that the love, now, how did you, when you put this all together, how did you come up with your logo? Just to make sure that you look unified, because we know I don't know the number, but we know there's X amount of podcasts, and no shade to nobody else, right? Go ahead, knock it out, right? Because there's so many fish in the sea and they don't bump into one another, believe it or not, right? But how to be able just to segue to make sure that you stand out, what makes you beam, what makes you illuminate? How are you able to make sure that you do go about getting your guests and like your logo to make sure that Nailed It Motherhood stands in the forefront? You know, we know it's not easy getting the guests or the guests coming, or we, like you said, decipher through paperwork or application, because everybody loves to talk, but you have a brand and you want that brand to represent well, and just to have anybody on there, it's not a good thing. So how does Tamara, Nailed It Motherhood, able to get this logo to make sure, hey, this is what it speaks to, and going about getting the guests to make sure that you flush out the correct guests to be on your show?
Right. So I played around the first season. I went like with a dark purple that I thought was professional, but it was colorful. My favorite color is pink, and I was like, let me not go with my favorite color. So Joy, this is why I love your logo and your brand, because it's both of the colors that just catch my eye. But so that dark purple, it was cool at first, but then when I had to rethink about it and rebrand myself so that I could really be visible to people, I needed a more catching purple. And I feel like that purple speaks of energy. It draws the eye to the brand. And then once you get to the brand, you have to keep the people, right? So I wanted to make sure that my brand is me. It's real. It's raw. Like I'm a woman, I'm a mother, I'm an artist. it's me. This is who Nailed It Motherhood is. This is about my story. This is about your story. This is about our community. So I wanted to make sure that I was visible, but not the center of attention. So the logo itself is a microphone. Simple. It's a podcast. That's what we're doing. We're just having real conversations between me and you, and we're sharing our story. But the brand itself is there's a slogan that I use. You might have the recipe that nobody wrote down. I want real moms on there, and I want them to be the brand of Nailed It Motherhood, because they don't have to be experts to have great advice. They might have advice that one listener takes and another one is like, that's not for me.
Yeah.
But that's the purpose. We are community. We eat the meat and we spit out the bone.
Yeah.
So these are real women who have real jobs, who have real problems, who have real children with real problems. And that is the brand. Mothers are the brand. Real is the brand.
And I could see that, right? I could see, like, you're doing like your spot with various mothers, sharing the story. And there's so many, there's so many levels to it. There's so many range. And I'm not saying level, there's so many range, right? And knowing that in 2025, we have surrogate mothers, we have single mothers, married mothers, so many very range. And that's the community that we invite all mothers, even the mothers who adopted,
Absolutely.
Mother does not deem that you have to give birth. Because you could be a mother to, your sibling's child, you're still a mother, whatever deemed, as long as you the care provider, right? Because again, it's there to have a heart, and the kid doesn't say, "Oh yeah, you're not my mom," but you're giving this kid everything. The kid's going to see how you treat them, and it's a saying goes. I don't know if you ever heard it, where the kids will never remember what you teach them, but they will always remember how you treat them. So in the same sense, those 0 to 18 years is so critical and so vital to a child's life, because that's what they talk about, as people, as they get older, and, you go to seminars or you go to networks or even sport. When you hear like NBA or NFL, they always talk about that prominent person is when they were 16. Or my teacher said I wasn't going to be nothing. Or when I was young, my mother made sure we had. It's never when they was 25. It's always 0 to 18. So when you're able to shift and share, people are able to share that story, another mother can relate. So I just commend you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yes.
I also want to add that I have had fathers on there as well, because I think, especially in the Black community, it is crucial for people to know that fathers are active and they're doing their thing as well. So the guest list is not just for moms. It is not just for naturally birthing moms. It is for anybody who is a caregiver, anybody who is a part of the village.
Oh, wow. That is truly, truly amazing. So keep in mind, please make sure that you like, subscribe, and follow Coffee with Joy. Tamara has said a mouthful. How she got started, why it's very vital that mothers share their story. So after these messages, we're going to hear some of the stories that came across her podcast and what was her thoughts and what is the next goal for Nailed It Motherhood. So after these messages, we're going to continue to talk to my guest, Tamara. The PayPal QR code, and so that you can find out more about these Q sets and so much more. Let's get to welcome back to Coffee with Joy. So excited to have you all. Please make sure that you like, subscribe, and follow Coffee with Joy. And if you like to patronize our company, please make sure that you do so with the QR code. That will be towards the end of the show. So we're going to get right back with my guest, Tamara. Hey, Tamara. Yes. So we left talking about the whole podcast. Now you have guests. You actually are talking to mothers of all range. So can you share like a story without getting too deep? Because, we do want to keep their story personal. Or if you like to get more in depth, please go to Nailed It Motherhood Podcast and you get to hear more stories. But what has been like, let me just say, what has been like the overall arching as you listen to these mothers conversation that you have found to be very profound on your podcast?
Cool. That is a tough question, Joy. And I know that you kind of prepped me before we hopped on, and I still can't really say overarching. However, I think overall, these mothers really have taught me perseverance through a lot of their stories. They have taught me strategies in how I can become a better mother, but they most importantly taught me how to practice self-care, self-love, and how to stop being so hard on myself. I think that I'm somebody who's very hard on herself, and I'm also hard on my child,
Yeah.
and I'm learning to kind of unlearn that behavior because of these stories. These stories are, I mean, we're not even getting all of the details of the stories in the 45-minute segment. We
Mm.
are only getting highlights, high level pieces of these stories, but they're so powerful. And I don't even know all the guests personally, but I
Yeah.
promise you, as guests, we connect afterwards. We're making sure that we're uplifting each other, and really just pushing each other to higher heights.
And and there's something that you stated in the early piece where looking at community is very important to community. And
Mhm.
thus far, how are you building this community with these mothers? Building a connection, because as the story starts to grow, as the story starts to really produce, as people start to hear how the podcast is doing, how are you cultivating that community to make sure there's like an outlet of people wanting to come back or be able to ask questions, how to go further?
I really think it's a natural cultivation.
Mhm.
Many of these, I haven't found one mom that has been, or dad, who has been on my guest list that I couldn't see myself keeping in touch with. So we, I will start by saying, I think that I became the most successful so far
Mhm.
whenever I went outside of my box.
Okay.
So I know a lot of people. I've lived in Philadelphia. I went to Penn State. I've done a lot of things, and I've reached out personally during season one. But whenever I really pushed that these are applications for guests, and I've spoken directly to the parents, um, to people that I can see liking my posts, things like that. Like you probably are drawn to this podcast for a reason. So
Yeah.
let's talk. Let's see how we can work together to really put your story out there. So that's one way. I've gone outside of my box, and I have opened up the floodgates, for people to share their story, because there was one mom in particular
Mhm.
who has had 5 miscarriages,
Mm.
and she is a mother by adoption first. Then she has had a biological child, and then she has adopted 2 other kids. During her miscarriages, she realized that there wasn't anybody that she knew of that had that story or a similar story. So she created her own nonprofit for women who were going through that. So I'm a firm believer that sometimes you have to build it, and
Yeah.
then they'll come.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I'm doing. I'm cultivating these relationships. I'm making sure that I'm not using them to be a guest, but I'm also supporting them in whatever endeavor that they are also working on and in. So
Mm.
I think I answered your question. There's probably plenty more to say, but I will let you
Oh no, this is your
have
time.
the
You're
floor.
totally fine. And I mean, keep in mind, there's that's your answer, because like I know, being a host, as you're asking questions as to drive the conversation, and sometimes as a host, the guests have to correct the host in the questioning, right? So it's not to say the question was wrong, but okay, it's this way, right?
Mhm.
Because I know community is I truly agree, to build the community authentically, right? Because it's those supporters that come and how you're able to build back. How are you able
Right.
to give back? Because being a mother, that is a community, right? People
Yeah.
need that. People hear that. And as you talk about your guests, of course, I'm telling my story. So whoever out there, this is not for you, and don't go share it. Okay. But I'm gonna share it since we're here.
Yes.
Um, I dated this guy back in college, and his mother, he was the firstborn, but his mother had 5 miscarriage, and they named
Wow.
him Jesus. But he's, of course, he's Haitian. So, and
Mhm.
and of course in Hispanic is Jesus, but they called him Jesus. So the mother was just so excited just to, be able to have a child. And of course, after him, it was, I think, 3 more siblings. But he was the first child after 5 miscarriage. That's how his name came about. So just to hear that, like, oh wow, how that just reminisce. And great
Mhm.
person. He's a great guy. So it's just to hear how mothers need mothers. And I
Mhm.
pray that mothers listen to your podcast or really, reach out, because you don't have to do this alone. just to be able to talk something through. I know we may be across the globe, across the pond, up the road, but just to be able to connect with another
Right.
with a mother. We share the story, but it's different. There's similarities, but there's difference in it, but just to be able to experience and be able to have that community. So now with
Right.
with the stories and building and gaining, what is the end goal? And keep in mind, so I have to make sure I break the end goal. I'm a firm believer that along the race, we have to find our reward, right? So let me use weight. Your end goal is to lose 50 pounds, right? But you know what? If I make the 20 mark, I'm gonna rejoice and be excited. We have to find that reward along the journey. I think we wait so much to get to the destination, like, okay, wow, we're here, without enjoying the journey through the ups and downs. So
Right.
when I say the end goal, what is the ultimate, but working towards that? What is your ultimate goal for Nail It Motherhood podcast?
Whew, Joy. I don't know,
Hmm.
to be quite honest with you. I think that I've always created this platform with the goal to build community. And right now, I'm still at the very, very beginning stages of me building
Yes.
that community. So I'm very much a visionary. So
Hmm.
I see eventually we're having, and I almost don't want to say it out loud because I've said it in my head a couple times, but if I say it out loud, then I have to hold myself accountable. But I almost see us having sessions where we are coming together and we're hosting retreats and just, building up ourselves, building up each other, pushing other people to really follow their dreams and follow their visions. But most importantly, we want to make sure that we feel connected to our children,
Yeah.
and that we are showing a good example of what it is to be a good person, to have a caring heart, to serve people, to listen to people, to show empathy. I think that is the ultimate goal, and it kind of is selfish because that's for me. I know I'm a good person,
Yeah.
but being a mother has changed a lot about me. And I have to remain a good person while also being a good mother.
Hmm.
And that is a different kind of journey for me. And I'm learning it. And I hope that my daughter is proud of me. And I hope that when Nailed It Motherhood takes off and grows to the point where maybe I'm nationally known, that is not the end goal. But if it happens, it happens. I
Hmm.
hope that Tavia can be like, that's my mom. I'm proud of her. She walks the walk, she talks the talk, and she is authentically who she is on that podcast.
I say go for it. I mean, it's like God was giving me a revelation. I say go for it. And I think people get caught up on the numbers. Even if you have 5 women, that's a
Yes.
retreat, that's a conference where the Bible says 2 or 3 are gathered, and speak
Yes.
things as they are. Because again, if we don't feed our need, eventually the enemy is going to throw darts at us, right? So we have to ask God, what is it that I need in order to continue to build, knowing that I'm not getting nothing. I am
Mhm.
full gas, and there's nothing to put in the gas. But I know there's a vision. How do I make this vision become a reality? So I'm just telling you, to a podcast, to another podcast, I say go for it. Even if it's small, you bank on that, you market it, you build it
Yes.
up. Because again, people want to be part of a community, but it takes one. Like, of course, it's biblical. We know Moses was the one. He was
Yes.
scared. It took David, is that one. It took Jesus, is that one. So God is calling you to be that one. And sometimes I know we talk ourselves out of it, or we scared, but there's no fear. And that's a daily walk, a prayer, and a constantly. Because I know people ask me, always ask, who's doing this? How's Joyce? How are you able to get this through? And I tell anybody, and I tell everybody, it's through the prayer of God, and staying
Mhm.
focused. I don't look left and I don't look right. I stay focused only because I know the vision that I have, that God has given me. I got to birth it, but I can't give up. I can't
Yes.
sit there and not allow, oh man, I didn't make no money for this year or this season. See, again, I'm the one that look at my cup half full. So as you talk about your conference, as you talk about bringing mothers together, you say, hey, even if it's 5 friends, they're mothers, you come together, you orchestrate it. All people don't want to plan. So if you sit and you plan it to a T, to how you want it, I
Mm.
promise you, Don't look at the cost. Don't look at it. Somebody's waiting for you to make that move. And I guarantee you that 5 going to turn to 25, that 25. And I'm just saying a number. God could take that 5 and become 5,000. You have sponsors, you have paid speakers. The money's going to come endlessly because that is a driven, and the sponsors behind it, like Huggies. We talking about formula. We're talking about, Honest, all of these products. And how are you able to get swag bags? I'm telling you, girl, let me tell what I'm not a mother, but baby girl, let me tell you, when there's a vision, I don't allow nobody. I am that friend that says, no, we can do it. But again, I think we get caught up on a number. Beyonce had to start somewhere, Spike Lee had to start somewhere. Denzel Washington had to start somewhere. So you're starting, but your starting doesn't equate to say, oh, I won't make it. No, I am going to make it. So when we call those things as they are, even when they're not, guaranteed the devil can't even handle that. So I'm telling you, really, motherhood going to be big. I'm telling you, if you need help, I'm here. That's community. I'm all about collaboration. There's no competition because what God gave you is for you.
It's for me. Yeah.
There's nothing I can do. So I can have podcasters after podcasters. Hey, I'm here for the build, for the growth. Because like you stated, you build it, they will come. Absolutely. But I can't allow outside forces be, because life is not going to stop lifing, So I say all that to Tamara. I say, go for it. That is it. And
I'm over here like,
yeah, I'm telling you, go for it, sis. I promise you, go for it. As we bring the show to a close, what keeps Tamara going? Affirmation, prayer, scripture. We know, like I stated, life is not going to stop life, but we have a dream that's going to become a reality. But we got to work the vision in order. So, what keeps you going in all your mess to make sure that Nailed It Motherhood Podcast could become a success?
So, words of affirmation are huge for me. But also worship. I am a worshiper, and I will hide away and worship and sing a song in my heart until I have to get myself together and then go back and be a mom. That's what keeps me. Worship songs, words of affirmation, knowing who God has created me to be and knowing that I'm not quite there, but I'm getting there. So there's still more to my story. Another thing that keeps me going is watching my daughter worship. I love when we're driving and she's like back there just singing her little heart out. Oh my gosh, that is a different feeling. So I love kind of like just pausing and not singing at all and sneaking that in. So those are the things that keep me going.
Amen. Yes. So again, thank you so much, Tamara, for being on Coffee with Joy Talk Show podcast. So excited to have you on. Of course. So please make sure that you like, subscribe, and follow Coffee with Joy. There were so many nuggets that was dropped. So stay tuned. Tamara will be having an event coming soon. If you're a mother, please look out, because this is a community that she's building, that she's going to protrude, and it's for all mothers, even men that are taking care of children. So please make sure that you like, subscribe, and follow Coffee with Joy. And if you'd like to patronize our company, please make sure that you follow the QR codes that's located on our screen. And as always, if it's a weekday or a weekend, it is Coffee with Joy. Until then, you all live life on purpose, and see you all soon.